The webinar will begin in 5 minutes. This is an audio check. The webinar will begin in 3 minutes. This is an audio check. Our webinar will begin in 90 seconds. This is an audio check. Our webinar will begin in 1 minute. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is John Consoli. I'm VP of Sales and Marketing for the Legrand Cabinet and Containment Group. I'll be your host for today's webinar entitled Planning for Containment Projects Like a Pro. In today's 30-minute event, we'll be looking at the 5 most common mistakes made when specifying and installing data center containment solutions and how you can avoid them. This is not a sales presentation, but for the sake of context and credibility, allow me to take a moment to tell you about who we are and what we do. Legrand has a presence in over 90 countries around the world. We employ about 36,000 people and have revenues in excess of $7 billion. Our mission is to bring power, light, and data both to the home and to the workplace. Legrand North America is comprised of 6 divisions: electrical wiring systems, building control systems, commercial AV, power distribution and control, lighting, and us, the Datacom division. My group, Cabinets and Containment, was formed in April of 2017 by merging the metal products and resources of AFCO Systems, Electrorack, and Ortronics. We now have manufacturing centers in New York, New Jersey, and California, as well as in the UK, the Netherlands, Singapore, and Mexico. Collectively, we have deployed millions of square feet of data center containment around the world, and you'd be hard-pressed to come up with a challenge that we have not faced. Now that I've established our credentials, let's get on with today's presentation. In order to help you avoid the most common mistakes associated with selecting and specifying and then installing a containment solution, we've put together a simple list of things to avoid. Number 1, assumptions. Number 2, connection points and anchoring points. Number 3, dealing with skyscraper rows. Number 4, locating and using available supporting structures. And number 5, planning for modularity. Assumptions. Simply put, avoid making them. Approach a containment a containment application as a project, not as a procurement. If you have drawings, assume they're incorrect or assume that they're incomplete, and make sure to walk the site as many times as possible, noting all possible obstructions. Double check AC supply and returns, as well as fire suppression locations. One of the most common problems that we encounter and we see our customers encounter when planning and then installing a containment solution is making the assumption that what's on the drawing is what's going to actually appear in the room. This almost never happens. Something else that we strongly encourage you to do is to deal with selecting and installing containment as a project with a project management set of glasses on, as opposed to the way that you would procure a product. An example that we like to use is what I call the IKEA example. Now, if you've ever purchased a couch from IKEA, chances are you had a pretty good experience. If you've ever purchased a bookcase from IKEA and tried to put it together, probably a different experience, probably not as enjoyable. And if you've ever purchased a kitchen from IKEA, well, totally different experience. So in planning to take on a containment project for your data center, go in with the mindset that you're entering into a project, not just procuring an item. Here's a common example. Architectural drawings are often abstract and usually vary from the actual details of the site. Something small like a variation in floor grade that are not reflected in the drawings can throw off the installation drastically. Another thing to look out for and note is the exact location of structural or power penetrations, which are very frequently different in real life than they are from the drawings that you may get. Number 2, connection and anchoring. Be sure to note where the containment system will be supported from. Will it be supported from the ceiling? Is it freestanding, or does it need to be anchored to the floor? Will you be installing a containment system or components of the system that need to be anchored from the cabinets? Please make sure to note how and where the system will be anchored in advance of the containment system actually arriving to the job site. Another thing to consider is, will all the cabinets be present and installed day one? Have you planned for future expansion? One of the things that we know for sure is that the day one installation is almost never what you're going to have to deal with day 10, day 30, day 45, or beyond. Here's an example. During one recent installation of hot aisle containment, which is the most prevalent approach to containment in new construction data centers, we found the customer had not planned on how to deal with an unpopulated portion of the row. This resulted in a gap in that aisle, which totally compromised the functionality and efficiency of the containment system. So please plan in advance. If not all cabinets are going to be delivered and installed on day one, a detailed walkthrough or a review session could have uncovered this detail in this particular installation, and temporary, removable, and reusable filler panels could have been added, then removed when future cabinets were installed. Number 3, what we call skyscraper rows, or cabinets of varying heights. Please note that not all cabinets are created equal. Even if you've got a plan that's comprised of all 42 U cabinets or all 50 U cabinets, the outer dimensions will vary from one cabinet manufacturer to another. Please be sure to measure and record the outside dimension of all cabinets. Another way to avoid this inconsistency would be to always install Legrand cabinets, and that's our only shameless plug for this presentation. But please do make sure that you annotate, record, and take note of the outer dimensions of cabinets, and also make sure when evaluating your containment solution that you're purchasing and installing a solution that has a way to adapt and deal with cabinets of varying heights in the initial installation, and then also think about what would you do or what will you do for adding cabinets in the future that may be usually taller. Very rarely do we see a shorter cabinet going in. Here's an example, hot aisle containment scenario. Even 1 inch difference in the height of the cabinet can lead to containment installation issues. So this is something where we really need to, as they say, the proverb, measure twice, cut once. That really comes into play when dealing with skyscraper rows. Number 4, available supporting structures. Just because a supporting structure is available does not mean that it's suitable. So if you look on a drawing or even do a walkthrough and eyeball the room where, or the area of the room where a containment solution is going to be installed, you may be able to visually see potential supporting structures and potential anchoring points. These need to be very closely evaluated to see if they are in fact suitable and can support the structure that you plan on supporting them from. Something else to take into consideration is that using the anchoring points and installing the containment installation, especially when supporting from overhead, will your supporting structures or threaded rods or whatever means you're going to use to support the structure, will they interfere with other things in the data center, such as overhead cable tray, fire suppression, and also are you violating any safety rules that may wind up causing for changes and confusion afterwards? Best rule of thumb, always check with your authority having jurisdiction. Here's an example. We very often encounter situations where the planned support structure presents a conflict with other trades once on site. It's not uncommon for the installation team doing the containment to show up on site and have conflict with the other trades, such as cabling contractors, plumbers, HVAC, electrical, who are trying to install, according to the drawings that they're working from, things like basket tray, overhead power, and such. So making these on-the-fly changes can cause delays, frustration, conflict on the site, and least desirable of all, costly change orders. Number 5, and perhaps the most important from our perspective, is modularity. Think of the future. Many of the lower cost or homegrown containment solutions that we see might do the job on day one, but don't prove to be scalable. The only thing that we know for sure is what you install today is not going to be what you need next year, or even next quarter, or even next month, or maybe not even next week. Do your homework and select a reputable and professional containment solutions partner. Let's talk for a second about installation and partnership. There are myriad containment solutions that are available in the marketplace, and all of them conceptually will do the job. One of the most important variables that you can consider when interviewing, evaluating, and entering into a contract for installing a containment solution is to know who you're working with. Look for referrals, look for evidence of previous experience in installing. With Legrand, we happen to have a program where we certify installers. And in most cases, for larger projects, for medium to large projects, we also provide on-site project management. Going back to the IKEA example that I used when we first started today's presentation, is that if you have had that frustration that we've all shared, and I'm not picking on IKEA, it could be maybe a lawnmower or a barbecue or something that you ordered from Amazon that shows up at your home or at your place of business, and now you have to assemble it or you have to install it. Your experience with that installation or assembly process is really going to wind up reflecting on how you feel about the product. It could be a perfectly good product, such as an IKEA bookcase, and how many times have you experienced frustration or walking away or throwing down an Allen key and saying, well, this stuff is just junk, and when in fact, the overall experience has to do with unfamiliarity and lack of experience assembling and installing the product. So the product is just one part of the project that you're entering into. The installation, assembly, and day two support is just as important, if not more important, than selecting the right solution. Here's an example of modularity that's often overlooked. Keep in mind that all containment solutions should be designed for adaptability. Talk to your vendor and to your installer about what brackets and adapters might be available to address unforeseen modifications. It makes sense to take time and map out a few what-if scenarios. Using another analogy, if we think of an erector set or a Lego set, the building blocks or the components of a set of Legos are all very similar. What impacts what we can do with that set of Legos or what you can construct from an erector set has everything to do with the adapters and the connectors that are available. In containment solutions, by and large, any solution that you choose is going to be comprised of some form of an extrusion to build the frame, and then some form of panels that will comprise the solution itself. How those things go together on day one, and more importantly, the on-the-fly adaptability and future-proofing that system has to do with the available brackets and adapters. As they say, the devil is in fact in the details. In closing, I'd like to say that Legrand has deployed millions of square feet of IO containment across the USA and around the world. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bottom line, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Selecting the right partner is every bit as important as selecting the right product. Next steps. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, that we brought you some value today. We have learned, although that what I shared with you today may seem like it's glaringly obvious, our experience has been that the obvious is not always so obvious. The next steps that you can count on us to take, we'll send you an email with a download, with a link so you can download this presentation. If you have a question, and I wish we could be interactive here, but there's just too many people logged on, and we've really focused on keeping this presentation short, sweet, and to the point. If you have an immediate question, or if you need advice with a project, please reach out to us by logging on to marketing.afcosystems.com/containment-project. There's a form there for you to fill out. A cabinet and containment sales engineer will respond to your request. You will not be solicited by a sales person. You will not receive marketing information. Marketing.afcosystems.com/containment-project is a way for you to access our sales engineers who'd be more than happy to give you advice, to answer questions, or to give you some guidance on how to make your existing or your future containment project much less frustrating, much more enjoyable, and most importantly, to show you how to get the most for your dollar and to select, install, and maintain a containment solution in your data center that will serve your needs today and well into the future. Thank you very much for your time today. My name is John Consoli. On behalf of the men and women of Legrand, in particular, our Cabinet and Containment Solutions Group, we'd like to thank you. We hope to see you in the future.